Welcome to Deer Feed. I'm Renee.
And I'm Jess.
And we're the Deerfoot Sisters. Today we're talking about Game of Thrones. And we're joined here by our great friend, JD.
JD.
Hi, JD.
Hi.
Wait, you did just literally say your name, though.
That's true. Yes.
JD does kind of look like Hodor.
And he sometimes holds doors.
Sometimes. He's pretty helpful,
Oh my
so he
God.
does. So, for
The
those of you who
similarities.
aren't familiar with Game of Thrones, welcome to 2019.
Where have you been?
Trigger
Seriously.
warning, there are spoilers.
Yes, there's going to be obviously a lot of spoilers in this episode because we are just talking about the show in general.
And the books.
We're also going to talk about the books, but not as much because I haven't read them and I'm obviously the most important podcaster here. So we'll be focusing on
I'm
both.
triggered.
We have a couple of games and little activities we're going to do. We're going to discuss some of our favorite characters, maybe some grisly death scenes, maybe our favorite boobies. That's pretty much the gist of that show. So
I could
that's
talk
what
for
we're
a while
covering.
on that topic. Yeah.
You have a lot.
I had another trigger warning I wanted to say. JD is not as good at controlling his language, so there may be more cursing. It's going to be marked as explicit anyway.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So-
Also, I mean,
Oh,
it's kind
wait.
of hard to not
No.
curse.
So I have carte blanche right now?
It's
No,
not
no,
really in
no.
our brand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little...
Okay. So I'll be respectful.
Yeah,
of
if
this.
you want to go on the... oh,
Sorry for the cut. We had some technical difficulties.
You got
Yeah.
sunburned.
Yeah. I have a farmer's tan because I wasn't wearing sunscreen at camp
so
yesterday.
if you guys listened to last week's episode, you know one of our main travel tips is always pack your sunscreen. And then Jess called me this week and she's like, I got a sunburn at camp. I was like, you disobeyed our main travel tip. Although it wasn't
You
really vacation.
disobeyed.
It was work, but whatever. Yeah, sorry for the cutout just because computer can't handle the awesomeness that is JD and Game of Thrones.
Oh, it's too much.
If you really like this podcast and you want to buy me a new MacBook, #support.
Yeah.
What's the Patreon?
Hashtag join the herd. Yeah, you could be like our sponsor. We're really looking. If Apple wants to sponsor us, that's great.
We don't have a Patreon, but if you want to just like find us on the streets and hand us cash, then
Yeah.
you know we accept checks and
Checks,
No,
coins.
I think on our website we can set it up to
We
accept
can
payments.
set a little button. Yeah, just you click
I
support.
was
and
just
then-
joking.
Or maybe.
through Podbean. I think it's on there already.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I'm
All right.
not
So
sure.
anyway, let's get on to today's
Focus.
topic.
Email
so,
us and we'll find a way for you to give us money.
Yeah.
Don't
yeah.
worry.
Make it rain.
Okay, so Game of Thrones is coming back on Sunday, which is just a few days from when everyone will be hearing this episode. So again, if you are not caught up, you might hear some spoilers, so you probably want to catch up before Sunday anyway. And as we were saying before, it's pretty hard not to curse during a talk on Game of Thrones, because I was thinking like, oh, maybe we could do an activity where like we get some quotes from some of the characters, and I'm like, okay, I was just like looking at the Hound's quotes, and I'm like, there's so many C words, there's so many like F words, and I
Yeah.
always wondered like, okay, Game of Thrones, it's not like set in the past, it's just set in like fantasy world,
Yeah.
True.
right? Because like, you know how sometimes movies that are about like history or about old time periods and they use like modern curse words, and I'm like, were those curse words then?
That's a really
Like,
good
did they
question.
say the F word in, like, colonial America? Because, like, I just feel like they didn't. They probably said something like a hogwashery or, like, something really weird, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know when the F word came about.
Yeah, or, like, the C word. Like, I feel like they had insults, but they were, like, much more subtle. They weren't, like... Or maybe they just said, like, I lay a curse on you, instead of actually cursing.
I think people called
No,
each
I-
other things like dogs a lot, and like things that would seem
And, like-
much more tame today. But like,
I
And,
think
like,
they
ass
had
was
curse
definitely
words.
around.
they'd be like,
That
"Your
was,
mother."
Oh!
Nothing happened. We're all good here.
JD's breaking
They'd be
his
like,
hot
"Your
screen.
mother was a dog, and your father smelled of elderberry." No, that was
Elderberries. That probably smells good.
Smell of dingleberries.
dingleberries.
Yeah, no, that would
I'm
not.
pretty sure that wasn't a thing.
Anyway, so I don't know. But
Imagine
since
finding
Game
out
of Thrones-
dingleberries was an actual old berry.
Ooh, gross. So Game of Thrones is like just fantasy. It's
You're
not.
like,
It's not older.
It's yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's just fantasy.
it's a thing you see a lot today, where it's like kind of alternate
Contemporary.
history
Yeah.
is like a thing. There are different versions of it today.
We are recording with a dog in presence tonight, so if you hear like repeated thumping, it's probably her fat tail slapping against something.
Oh, she's just like sniffing
Oh, because
her nice underwear.
no, she's sniffing my. I have a palette in there, and it's like the chocolate palette, so it smells like chocolate. Let me get it. Oh, and I had a buttered roll.
She literally had that in her mouth.
You want that? You can have this.
Oh my god. You had a buttered roll?
It's from the other day.
Are you gonna give it to her whole like that?
Yeah, she knows
Okay,
how to
so
bite.
she's getting her buttered roll. You want me? I'll put it in her
No,
bowl
I'll
for
just
her.
go put it over here. Sarah,
Alright.
you want this?
That'll distract her.
Oh my god. Okay, so what JD and I are gonna start talking about first is our favorite characters. So,
I'm
who's
ready.
your favorite character?
My favorite character in the whole show. Wow, that's a really weighty question. I would have to go with Samuel Tarly.
Ew.
Why?
Why?
Because he's your spirit animal.
I was doing work today, but actually being on Reddit, and I saw a meme that was talking about would not be alive, and there's a picture of Jon Snow, would not have gotten across the wall, and there's a picture of Bran if not for this guy, and it's just a picture of
Yeah.
Samuel Tarly. So I just think he strikes me as like the purest character on the show. Love him. I relate to him.
Interesting.
He's my
Jess?
guy.
I don't know. Okay, like I really like Jaime Lannister.
Jaime Lannister?
Yeah.
Is it because he looks the most like Chris Hemsworth?
No, but you do know my type. No, I think it's just because like
I think Bran of Tarth looks more like Chris Hemsworth.
Brienne's everyone's type.
no, I think he's just because like he seems to be like such a villain, but he tries to be good, and he's like
So you see yourself in him because he's like just
yeah,
flawed,
like a guy who
like
just, like,
fundamentally
messes up
flawed,
over and over again,
and he's
you're
like trying to do the right thing, but he's just so bad at it.
I mean, I guess there's different types of characters. Like, you like somebody for, like, because they're so wholesome and cute, like Sam. And then you like a guy who, like, their arc is, like, so cool from, like, what they were to what they become.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
I can
the Hound
I
is,
can
like,
see that with
interesting.
Jamie.
Like,
Yeah.
his story. And then I was rewatching season 1, and I was saying to Renee, like, I noticed, first of all, so many hints. Like, they foreshadow basically everything that happens.
Yeah.
But there was a point where, they're always calling Jaime, like, Kingslayer, and talk about how he, like, stabbed the Mad King in the back when he was part of the Kingsguard. But then he says something to Ned Stark, like, oh, I remember when he burned your fathers, and, like, when I was stabbing him in the back, it felt like something like justice. And Ned's like, F you, don't try to, like, sway the fact that you dishonored yourself by, like, claiming you were doing justice. And basically Ned, like, it was his own father who was avenged and brother, but he was basically like, no, you should have done the honorable thing and served your king. And I'm like, all right, Ned, you're a little bit too obsessed with honor. So
Well, that's why he died after like 4 episodes.
Yeah, but no, he was in the first, like, 9 to 10 episodes. 9, I guess, was the first season, right? It was 10, and he wasn't in the last episode.
So you have another favorite?
I like Tyrion.
Everyone likes
Well,
Tyrion.
I really want to find out who your least favorite
Wait,
characters
excuse
are.
me. What about
I'm
my
sorry.
favorites?
I'm sorry. I'm not jumping topics yet. I want to make sure we touch on
Okay, Bird.
I have
Renee.
2 favorites.
Okay.
Sir Davos is my favorite.
Okay.
I love his voice. It's like a sweet lullaby.
that. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
He's really good. He just seems like a good person. And my other favorite is Braun. Because
Oh,
he's just
Bronn?
like, he's
I'm
just
gonna say
so...
Bran.
Speaking
No,
of which,
not Bran, Braun, who, if you guys don't know who he is, he was like Tyrion's champion.
He's like the sellsword.
And yeah, and he's just like funny because
Not
he's just...
very honorable.
No, I feel like he would be me. He's just kind of like, I'm going to do what I can to live this life and have the best time I can because, like, people just get killed all the time here. It's a crazy world we live in. And,
But you're not really like that. Like he does whatever gets him the best, like the most money. He's
yeah.
very selfish.
Yeah,
You're
he
not
is
that,
very
you know.
selfish. That's true. Okay,
he
one
looks
buttered
out for
roll
number
wasn't
1.
enough?
Should have kept her in her room.
I'll put it back.
I think, like, you have, like, the one end of the spectrum, which is, like, Brienne, who's, like, all about the honor and stuff like that. And then Braun's, like, the other side of that, where
Yeah.
he's like, I'll do whatever you want as long as you pay me enough money, but I'm not going to lay my life down for you.
That's
My
Sarah
least-
drinking. If you thought Renee drinking was loud.
My least favorite character is Shaggy Dog. No, I'm just kidding. He's pretty innocuous.
Wow.
No, least favorite. That's a
Okay, I'll
toughie.
say my least favorite is Catelyn. I hated
Really?
her, and
Yeah,
I know
she found
everybody
her
like
really
was
annoying.
really upset about the red
Okay.
wedding, but I was like, yes, kill her. And at first she like wasn't getting killed, and I was like, seriously, she's gonna be the only one that lives through this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know. Did they have Stoneheart in the show? I don't
No, they
remember.
don't.
Okay.
No, which is so Lady Stone.
No, but don't they?
No, they don't.
Oh.
And it's funny because I think there's even one scene in one of the seasons where they make a subtle kind of like jab at the idea of Lady Stoneheart. So if you guys don't know, Lady Stoneheart, in the books, Catelyn, when she dies, they throw her body in a river and she gets all like bloated and gross looking. And then the Red Priest, who is a character in the show, stumbles upon her and they bring her back to life because the Red Priest can bring people back to life apparently. And she's just this like gross looking like zombie mess, and she's actually like they describe her as like having like cuts down her face for when she scratched her own face when she was like going insane. And so they just didn't include her in the show, right?
Yeah, I don't
But in
Yeah.
the book, they also didn't she then kind of like join, what were they called, the brothers
Without banners.
Oh yeah, and didn't she kind of become like their judge or something? Like she was the one who would like
She's like their leader,
Yeah.
and she takes them from being like kind of like Robin Hood, like doing the noble thing, to like just getting revenge on the Freys. But there's a scene in the show where the Hound meets up with the brothers again, and he walks over to the river. And I remember watching this thinking like, oh my god, this is where they find Lady Stoneheart. And then he takes his penis out and pisses into the river. So I thought it was like kind of like a subtle jab at like, no, we're pissing on that storyline.
subtle fleshy jab.
Yeah,
which is kind of dumb.
I love the storyline in the
The
book.
book ends.
I mean, I think
that
it's
part
amazing.
of the book ends because basically, so
They don't need more characters.
No,
Like,
well,
just-
that's the issue.
But
Is
that's
you
the
only
thing.
have an hour of television to fill.
yeah. I mean, like
You
we
know?
talked.
Well, it's HBO, so they do whatever they want.
It's true.
This season's going to be like hour and a half, 2 hour
Every
episodes.
episode is like an hour and a half movie
Yeah.
this season. But you know
so
they.
who's your least favorite character, Judy?
Well, I was gonna say they tied the story off with Arya coming back and killing all the Freys, which I thought was cool in the show.
Yes.
You know, she poisons them all. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. My least favorite character, and the reason I wanted to bring this subject up, was because I'm very obsessed with this series and the books and all that, and I recently rewatched the whole thing, and then I started listening to the series on Audible, which was great. And the one thing that stuck out to me more than anything from listening to the first book was...
Wait, did you read the book the first time?
I actually
Okay.
read the first time.
Alright.
I
So
know
if
that's
you say you
I
read
know
it, we're not going to be like,
I
you
know-
read it.
I know that's a trigger in there here. Was what an awful person Robert Baratheon is, and he
Robert
is easily
Baratheon?
my least favorite character
yeah,
in the
he's
whole
such
show.
a
I feel like you're kind of like Robert Baratheon. I mean, like, at least in the show, he's like, I mean, he's like,
No, he's a
okay,
jerk.
he's more of like a pig than you are.
Well, no,
but
so
like, he's kind of like,
my issue
Yeah,
with
you're
him
always
specifically.
cheating on your wife. Judy has like 25 bastards out there.
I do have like 18, little niños out
I mean,
there
more
running
like,
around.
you just like to have a good time. You're like a good time gal.
I mean, so that's the thing. Like, all he wants to do is like fight and F and drink and and they talk about it in the book. But the thing is, like, even before the whole storyline that kind of started the war that created the book, where he's in love with Ned's sister, he had already started having like little bastards in like the Vale
It's
and
like,
like
were you
other
really
places.
in love with her? If you
Yeah,
were, like,
so like I mean that whole romance, like even if she hadn't like fallen in love with Rhaegar, that would have been doomed from the start because he's just an awful,
But
awful
even that,
person.
that's also like when you find out, which I knew all along, that and you didn't I talk to you about it and you
Yes.
were like, no, that's not true.
Yes.
Eileen's like, Jamie
Let me
knew
just
that
say,
all
R
along.
plus L equals J.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
As a non-book reader, I can say that probably sometime after the first season came out. You read the first book after the first season, right?
No, it was the third season.
Okay. Well, whenever it was, when Jess read the book, she was like, I think that John is actually like,
The love child.
the love child of Rhaegar and
Lyanna.
Because like I think he's not a bastard, and Ned just like adopted him because it's his nephew.
Because in
And-
the first book, they show
'Cause he's
Ned
so
has a bunch
honorable.
of flashbacks about what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when I rewatched the first season, I was looking at how Ned doesn't talk about her. He won't talk about her with Robert, and he won't talk about her with, like, John's mother with John.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, interesting. And it's
Right,
just
and
like,
it seems so out of character for him to have cheated.
yeah.
And that's probably also why you dislike Catelyn so much, because she's so terrible to John.
Yeah.
And it's like you knew, like, okay, John isn't even a bastard. And even if he was, it's not like he is the reason that your husband cheated.
Yeah.
It's not like his sperm was not going to get out, and he forced him to find a prostitute. Like, he's just a baby.
Plus, also, before the war, she was supposed to marry Ned's brother anyway. And during
Catelyn, what a hoe.
and like
It's true.
during that rebellion, I guess
He dies.
Switched.
he's
Oh.
killed. Yeah.
Well, he
But
strangles
regardless- Or maybe
himself
he's
to
not-
death. That's how he
Brandon?
dies. Yeah. The older brother, because
he was being
King
bred.
Ares lights his dad on fire, and he ties the brother to a wall, and the brother, trying to save his dad, strangles himself to death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was maybe like an outdoor product.
He was not good for
Those
Catelyn.
Stark boys.
Anyway, but the point is, Jess knew like the big reveal of last season all along that Daenerys is actually Jon Snow's aunt.
Yeah.
And Jon Snow's not really Jon Snow.
That
Well, I
was
guess
a-
he is. No, because
No.
they're married. They're
That was a
married.
weird way to put it.
No,
Jon
well,
Snow
In
is
the show, they're married.
is the legitimate child of the heir to the throne,
But,
Rhaegar Targaryen.
but no, wasn't Rhaegar already married?
No, remember in
No.
the show, what's the girl's name?
Gilly.
Gilly is reading, and she read about their annulment.
Yeah.
So Rhaegar had
Oh,
an
so he had
annulment, and then
with-
he
what was her
married
name?
Liliana.
With
the
the
Dornish girl. I don't remember her name.
Tyrell.
No.
No, it was Dorne because then
Ilya.
she was
Ilya-
from Dorne because
Yeah.
she's the
Ilya Martell. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
confusing
Like
Tyrell and
Martell?
Martell.
Like, that's
the
one name.
sister of
Ilya Martell, who gets killed by the Hound. So they
That
got
was
annulled,
Oberyn's sister?
and then they
Yeah,
had a
Oberyn's
legit
sister.
marriage.
Yeah, so
Okay,
at
oh,
least
so
in the
he's
show.
legitimate.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in
Yeah.
the movie,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Well,
but in the show,
so in the
definitely.
book-
I mean, in
so
the
then
books.
people will say to me, "Oh, well, the book is past the show is past the books," and I always say, "There's so many things that they've changed."
Yeah, they haven't actually revealed that in the books. To keep
Yeah,
it, you know.
But I always say like so much has changed in the book in the show that the
You can't really say.
the trajectories of the characters are completely different. That at this point the show is like
its own thing.
a different dimension, a different universe because. Stuff that's happening would never even happen in the books. Like
I remember,
there's
like,
a whole character. Like one, I know you say I have too many characters, but one of the characters that is
a lot
in
of
the
characters.
book is and is basically John's younger brother. So it's Rhaegar's son, who is a baby,
Oh yeah,
and he's alive in the books.
that's a
so
really like
we'll get into the predictions later, but he was alive in
out
the
there
books.
side storyline in the books.
But see, I don't think it is, and I'll just say with my
Yeah.
predictions because what I always thought was going to happen was
Mhm.
that Jon Snow, Daenerys, and that boy would be the three that ride the dragons when they come back.
But now there's only
But
two
now there's
dragons.
only two because one's. So then people are like, maybe the Night King will join them, and I'm like, that's stupid. That doesn't even make sense.
It's really tough to kind of.
Yeah, he just like breaks through
He's
the wall. He's like,
"Never
I
mind.
just wanted to
I just
stay
wanted to be friends
with
with
you.
you and get you back on the Iron Throne. I'm like, what?
You guys
He's
just
like,
kept me out.
Tyrion's gonna do it. I'm like, he's not a Targaryen. Like,
Well, like I think in the show it seems obvious now that Dany's gonna ride one and Jon's gonna ride the other. That's my prediction for like the upcoming season.
But the thing is, I wonder if they'll just like try not to do that because it's what they've been setting up.
Well, yeah.
You know how HBO.
I mean
is.
that kind of comes around to the question of like how do you think this is all going to play out? I don't know if we're there yet.
Is that our predictions? Well, I didn't. Wait, what else were we talking about?
oh well, yeah, we were
sorry, I
talking about
jumped
like
ahead.
the book versus the show and predictions. I mean, we
Oh, well, I
talk
just want to
about-
say one really quick thing about
Mm-hmm.
the book versus show discrepancies. When Jess was, like, reading the books, like, she had read most of them, and we were, like, watching the show, and I'm pretty sure it was, like, the episode where Brienne is with... I don't think she's with
She's
Jaime.
with Arya.
Oh, yeah, she's with Arya, and they, like, run into, like...
Oh no, she runs into Arya.
Yeah, she's
and
with
the
someone,
Hound.
and
She's
she
with
runs
Pod.
into Arya. Yeah, she runs into
that's when
Arya
they
and the
fight the
Hound,
Hound? Yeah.
and then she's all like, "I have to protect you," and Arya's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Do they like bump into each other like this in the books?" And just like, no, the country is huge. They don't just like randomly
Yeah,
bump
because
into
they
people.
talk about it like they talk about it in the first season. They're like, we've been riding for a month from King's Landing to Winterfell.
Yeah.
And then they act like they're just like walking along in a day and they're like in the same town. They bump into each other, and I'm like, I think there are a couple times where it happens, but it's not
Like
as
in the
frequently
tavern,
as they do in the show.
Catelyn is there
Yeah.
with like Tyrion, but
But that's the problem you always have, I think, when it comes to making a book into a TV show or a movie, because you can't have like the inner monologue you hear in the books on a TV show. You have to like show it to your audience.
yeah.
So like, I mean, the book, like if you watch the first season and read the first book, they're almost exactly the same.
Yeah, they're
But like
pretty
that's
similar.
where they start to divide. Like the show is now something very different than like where the books are. Like in the books, Jon's still dead.
Okay, but the books end.
Sansa is still in the Vale.
So the way that the books go is
Yeah.
like, so people were like, oh, there's 5 seasons, but this basically George R.R. Martin talks about, he has like a note in the beginning of book 4 saying, this is how I did book 4 and 5. I was writing so much, so instead of writing like a 2,000 or 2,500 page book, I made 2 books. Book 4 focuses on the South. So that's when, like, Dorne is introduced, and it focuses on King's Landing and, like, the Riverlands and, like, everything going on basically, like, below where the North is. And then he's like, Book 5 focuses on the North and, like, the far East, like, where Daenerys is.
Yeah.
So in Book 4, you don't hear anything about Jon Snow, Daenerys, anything. But then in Book 5, you get basically, like, the meanwhile, and it shows you everything. So then in the show, they combined it, and they showed both, which makes more sense. It'd be confusing.
Yeah, that'd be
that
so
way
weird.
In the show. But the thing is, like, so in the end of Book 5, basically, Daenerys, I mean, Jon Snow just got stabbed. Like, it ends with, not, like, necessarily the last page, but, like, that's the last thing you see of him is him getting stabbed.
He is dead.
But you know he's going to come back because Melisandre's there. And it's like, she wouldn't be there if he wasn't going to be coming back.
It's like, oh, there's the red ladies here.
Yeah, just,
like, you know, no big deal.
And they already set up that Thoros or whatever, the other guy, like, always comes back. So, like, you know it's something that the red priests and priestesses can do.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other thing that happened? Oh, and then Stoneheart basically sentences Brienne to die.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Because she's like, you were supposed to protect my daughters and you failed. And
she's
then,
like, hanging or something in the end, I think.
But then I was like,
she's
is
like
she
actively
dead? I don't know, because she's like hanging there, but they don't necessarily say she's dead yet. So I was like,
no, she's like actively dying when they leave her, which means she'll probably make it out.
Yeah.
That's
Do
like
you
gnaw
guys
through the rope.
think that there will be like a Brienne Jaime sex scene?
Well, in the book, Jaime, I remember vividly, there's a scene where they're taking a bath together, which they do in the show.
Yeah.
But in the book, it's way more descriptive. Like, Jaime goes like, I found myself hard all of a sudden staring at Brienne's manly naked body. Because, like, in the book, Brienne's, like,
effeminate.
huge. Like, she has muscles like, you know, a big dude.
Yeah.
And Jaime's into it.
He loses his hand, and then he goes back to King's Landing. But he basically, like, gains, like, a sense of honor, like, traveling with Brienne and, like, realizing stuff. And even actually before that, like, once Catelyn releases him and he says he'll make the trade, he's, like, fully intending to give Sansa back.
Yeah.
And then Cersei's like, no.
Yeah.
And Tywin is probably there, too, like, no, that's stupid, we're not doing that. But he does have, like, a sense of, like, honor.
He's just, like, dumb, I feel like. He doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't understand how the politics work.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, we're going to do this. And everyone's like, no, Jaime, we're not doing that, you idiot. He's like the happy puppy.
Well, he's actually dyslexic. So, like, you're not wrong. Like, there's a scene in the show where they're like, oh, I used to get the numbers all mixed up in my head. And then his dad, like, beat him over the head until he learned how to read or something.
I just watched it because I started rewatching it since season 2 when they're at Harrenhal or whatever.
Yeah.
And where Arya's the cupbearer for Tywin, and he realizes she can read because he's like, fetch me that book.
Yeah.
And she gets it without him telling her, like, which book. Mm-hmm. And she's like, my father taught me how to read. And he's like, I taught my son because he, like, was getting he's seeing the letters backwards or something. And his, like, the maester said he'd never learned how to read, and it was just what it was.
So I just beat him into submission.
He's like, wow,
mental health has come a long way.
10 hours
at least
or whatever.
Tywin Lannister is a dutiful father, you know?
Dutiful.
Dutiful.
He's such a dick. He's like such a jerk.
I know.
So there's a scene that I think they really messed up in the show. It's when Jaime comes back and he has like this new sense of honor, and he kind of sees Cersei as like a horrible person, and she's trying to like get in his pants, and he's like not getting it up for her. And then she calls his penis, like, a sad worm. I was like, why didn't they do that in the show? In the show, they just,
Wait,
like,
this
had
is the
sex.
book?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, they should have done that scene, because that was, like, so funny. I was like, oh, and you're sad. Because then he's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, just get away from me with that sad worm. And I was like, good insult.
That makes me think of Grey Worm. And his worm's always sad.
Okay, that is so stupid.
Are we going to talk about Grey Worm sex?
That's so dumb.
I don't know. I disagree with Jess. She thinks
the idea is they're in love, you know?
Jess
love doesn't see
He
penises.
doesn't have testosterone. He doesn't have balls.
Yes, but Jessica, when you love someone,
he cares for her.
When you love someone, even if you're not getting something out of it, you might just want to do nice things for that person.
He goes down on
if you're talking about stuff that's unnecessary, that's completely unnecessary. In the book, that person is a 10 or 12-year-old child. And there's no sexualness about her.
Yeah, because I'm listening to the books again. All the characters are like teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I love how Daenerys is always like, I know I'm just a child and I know nothing about war, but, and then she like says something. They're like,
I just love how Daenerys, like, I mean, in so many of the episodes, everyone's like, you'll never survive, and she's just like, bam, and just has her dragons burn everything
Yeah.
down. I'm like, guys, when will you learn? She can literally just burn everything and walk through it totally fine. Like, they're always, like, surprised. Like, all the men are like, oh. And she's like, you're so stupid. I'm just going to burn the whole town down and walk out of it with my clothes burned off. And then everyone's going to be like, Misa, you're amazing. You did a burn. Yeah, I don't know that. The men, like, around Daenerys, I'm like, no wonder she's, like, never gets them out of the friend zone. Because I'm like, they are just so, they doubt so much. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
I do like that she has just a guy who she keeps as like a booty call, and that is true in the book and the show.
Yeah,
you know, she's
Dario.
just like, take your pants off, I'm bored.
but not now. She abandoned him.
Yeah, I know, because you know she had to put him in
Now
his
she
place.
has her nephew.
Yeah, well, that.
I know. I remember
Oh.
like seeing memes, and they're like, incest in the first season, ew, gross. Incest in the 7th season, yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's a little different. It just always makes me think about twins differently.
Oof.
I've always thought about twins like that. We know a
Yeah.
set of twins. You know them too. I didn't mention them by name, but I always like thought that they like did
But people
weird
say stuff about that about us.
That's true, yeah.
So it's like, we know it's
They're
not.
like, hey, lesbians. They're like, well, if we were, we wouldn't be with each other. Like,
Yeah, I have standards.
so there's another thing that I can't remember now that happened in the book. Oh, so JD is eating some Game of Thrones.
Oh yes, let's see what I got.
Oreos.
I have no. Oh, it's a 3-headed dragon.
Hashtag for the throne. Go to Oreo.com to pledge fealty to your house.
I thought they were
Oreo,
gonna be
if you want
black
to
Oreos.
sponsor this podcast, we'll accept Oreos or new
As
MacBooks.
payment.
We could do a whole episode on just tasting different flavors of Oreos. Because
There are
there's like
def-
about 75
They're
flavors.
definitely enough. You could fill an hour.
What was the
with
one we
just
talked
testing
today? It wasn't
Oreos.
just like the peanut butter. It was like peanut butter chocolate
Peanut butter
pie.
pie. Yeah, unlike just
Ugh.
peanut butter Oreos.
Yeah. But I remember what it was. So in whatever season it is where Dario Narcisse, or however you say his name, is originally, and that's like Daenerys's like
Booty
lover
call.
boyfriend
Dario
who's in charge,
Naharis, yeah.
who's in charge of one of the
The Second Sons, one
Yeah.
of the sellsword
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
companies.
in the first season he's played by some character, and then the actor changes in the next season.
Yeah.
But
Which
in the
I like.
first,
I'm
when
happy.
he's first introduced, he was wearing a wig. The hair is a wig.
Okay.
I read this, okay? So it must be true. But anyway. Then the next one, they change the actor, which is like, fine, it happens. But they don't make the new actor wear the wig.
And they don't like
I mean,
obviously
you're
like
like,
they
who
don't
are
say
you?
his name or anything. They're not like, oh, Dar. Like, you know how
they
when there's
say
like
his name, but like, let's...
but
sorry.
not in a way that's obvious. You know, like when you're like in a sitcom and like a new character goes on and they're like, oh, hi there, Paul. How's everything going where you work at that factory? And they like set up their whole backstory because you're like, who's this
No.
person? But with him, they're just like acting like no big deal. And I'm like, who is
No,
this?
you're wrong though, Renee. Because I knew who
Yeah,
it
I gotta
was.
side with Jess on
The
this
reason
one.
is, you know why
Because
it
they
is?
say Dario Naharis. They're like,
Yeah.
where's Dario Naharis? Oh, he's gambling with Grey Worm, and they're
Yeah.
doing that thing where they're holding the swords
Okay, but
up.
yes, the reason
Renee,
I
the
don't know is
reason you-
because I don't
yeah.
know their names because there's 8 million
Right, yeah,
characters,
yeah.
and
They
when
just
all you
gave
do
him a
is
beard,
watch the
basically.
show, it's
If
hard
you
to
don't
know.
read the book, when you read the book and you watch the show, you're like, oh, now I know who all the characters are. Because when you watch the show and they're just saying their names, you don't really take it in as
Especially
much.
because some of their names are like so similar.
And
Yeah,
I like
they-
the new
that's
Dario
like-
Naharis way better because that first guy
Yeah,
was
I like that
way
actor.
too pretty.
He was like Fabio.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
literally looked like Fabio.
But
I'm
you
like,
think
you're
of-
supposed to be
but
like
that
a
was a wig.
grimy
No, but
sellsword.
he was like very like
Yeah,
chiseled.
very
Yeah.
chiseled. I know, but I just think they could have given him the wig to make it a little more obvious. Like,
But
I thought
could
it
you
was
imagine
kind
that
of
guy, that
strange.
new actor
Blonde
though,
wig.
wearing the wig? It's
Yeah.
like he's kind of scrawny, and that wig would like it would be as big as his body.
There's certain things
Like
that
one of
just
those
You'd
Pharaoh
be like
wigs.
Rapunzel.
that
Yeah.
there's certain things that take you out of the story. The best example of which is Arya riding along and she sees a bunch of soldiers and fucking Ed Sheeran is just sitting with them.
And he's like,
And I'm like,
"Ed,
no.
he's like, gotta sing my little ditty, and you're like,
Like-
Ed, what are you doing here?
They
Just get out
didn't,
of
they
here."
didn't even give him a beard or like put a helmet on him. It's just Ed Sheeran
He was like
sitting
in a
the middle of
t-shirt and
Westeros.
jeans.
Like he might as well have had his guitar with him and been like, "Oh hey there, Arya."
He did. He had like a
He
lute
played
or
a
something.
song.
He
Oh
played
my-
something.
no, he sang. He sang.
Oh,
he didn't
okay.
have like
Okay,
an
I don't
instrument,
know.
but like
Oh, he had like a little canteen.
people
maybe.
hated that.
He didn't have a strumpet.
Yeah,
And I
well,
love-
because like
I
during
love
the-
Ed Sheeran, but like it was not
yeah,
necessary.
like he's great. I like his music,
Shut up,
but
girl.
Sorry.
that definitely took me out. Like, yeah,
Yeah, that was like
unforgivable.
very ridiculous. I was like, what?
Well, that's like, have you ever seen the movie Black Swan?
Yes.
So, you know in the part when,
I love that. I love when she just turns into a swan out of nowhere.
when she's, like, fighting with her mom, and her mom's trying to get in her room, and she
she
like, slams
closes
her
the
mom's
doors
hand
on
in
her
the
hand.
door.
Yeah.
And the mom's
And
like,
then the
and her
Okay,
fingers are like all
I do not
limp.
remember that scene
The
very
theater, we were all, like, cracking up. And then we're like, okay, I guess it wasn't funny. But then we saw, like, so many, like, articles that, this was pre-meme, guys, there weren't really memes at the time. Saw, like, articles basically saying, like, the most unintentionally
funny
hilarious moment in film or whatever. And it was, like, supposed to be serious and not funny, but it was just, like, the way it was done. She's like,
And her hands are like all broken.
It's
her
really
limp
funny you say
fingers.
that because I remember seeing that movie and laughing hysterically when I think she's wrestling with Mila Kunis, and all of a sudden her neck like raises like 9 feet in the air, and no, the best part is she gives this like goose honk in the middle of it.
I could watch it again.
not
I'll have to
stop
watch it
laughing
again.
at
It's
that.
really bizarre.
It was
It's
like,
really
oh,
weird.
this turned into a cartoon. Oh,
man,
like,
that's funny.
yeah, talking about taking you out of a scene, I was just like, done. No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
Hilarious.
All right, so
So
now
Game of Thrones.
Wait, so where's Recon?
Rickon?
Rickon, whatever.
Rickon died. Well,
Rickon?
wait, do you mean the book or the show? Because the show he died.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, during the Battle of the Bastards.
Oh, okay.
So the Great John's son, one of the Umbers, shows up and Rickon's there because Asha had been given Rickon, and she took him to the
Wait,
last.
is she Asha or
no, you mean
Osha?
OSHA?
Couldn't tell you. The Wildling
Wildling
lady.
girl.
Yeah. So she takes him to the last hearth, which is the Umber house, and the Umbers are like, we hate the Starks now. So they chop the head off Shaggy Dog, which hurts me on a personal level because I have a
Renee
dog
was
that
happy
looks
about
like
it.
Shaggy Dog, and anyway. So the beginning of the beginning of the Battle of the Bastards. What's his name? The really evil dude, the bastard. Ramsay shoots him with an arrow.
Oh, what a
So in the
jerk.
book, he's still missing though.
Oh, I didn't even say my least favorite character. It's Lord Baelish. He's
Oh,
a real
no, didn't
creep.
you say someone though?
No, I don't
Did
think so.
I said Shaggy Dog,
You
but
forgot.
I didn't actually mean it. Maybe
That's
I said
true,
another
'cause-
person.
Lord Baelish, Littlefinger?
Yeah,
Baelish-
he's a real creep.
He stirs the pot.
And I don't like how he
that's
talks.
That's his thing.
He's always like, I'm like,
think-
ew,
Yeah,
you're
he's so
creepy.
creepy.
Like, why? And like, even when he's not doing anything creepy, he's just like really creepy. I'm like, you have a bad vibe.
Yeah, it's like if you just like were in a room with it. The one thing I was really sad about was in the last season they kill him, which fine. It's like his just
Good,
desserts
finally.
and stuff. But
They
like
killed him? Wow, I don't remember.
they cut his throat. But like there was this great.
Wait, John.
No, Arya
No,
cuts his throat.
Arya and
Oh.
Sansa.
Alright, because
Remember,
Sansa finally
he
is
was-
just like I'm not buying what you're selling anymore.
because he was trying to manipulate
Yeah.
Sansa into thinking that
No.
Arya was
Into
going to
fighting
kill
Arya.
her,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and then she's
But-
like, they were like,
I definitely have
you
to
can't break
rewatch.
up these
I did
sisters,
not
bruh.
remember. Yeah.
Sisters, brah.
Finally, after, like, Sansa was always, like, betraying Arya.
But the one thing
Yeah.
I kind of was sad about was in the earlier seasons, Littlefinger and Varys, the eunuch,
Mm-hmm.
they have this like kind of great back and forth where it's just like they were obviously kind of at odds with each other, and they were kind of like matching wits instead of like matching
Yeah.
swords. And like in the end, I was kind of hoping his demise would come from Varys a little bit. Like I outwitted you, but Varys was nowhere to be seen.
Do you
so.
trust Varys?
Yeah.
I don't
He-
trust a man with no hands. He's always got his hands in his little
What?
sleeves.
I was like, you mean testicles?
No, but like he always has his
Yeah.
hands like in his sleeves.
Oh,
Like, what are you
okay.
doing in there?
It's up your sleeve.
Yeah, he's
It looks like a
big
monk.
sleeves, really.
Yeah, but
I like him, but I don't know if I trust him.
because he says he cares about the realm.
Yeah, he's always said, I fight for the realm.
I don't
But
know.
obviously, Littlefinger fights for himself.
Littlefinger is just a creep,
Yeah.
and I feel like in real life he would be like a close talker.
Mm.
You know, like you'd be alone in a room with him, and he would just continually get closer to you,
And he'd
be
have like
backing
bad
up.
breath too. And
Yeah,
you'd be
like
"Oh,
coffee
God,
breath.
Come on, man.
And he'd like
Yeah.
sidle. He'd be a person who sidles.
Like imagine
up to
Littlefinger
people.
like at the office, you know?
Oh yeah, at the water cooler. He's like, "Did you see the episode of
Like
last night?"
I can imagine he'd be the
Yeah.
guy who like is always like kind of kissing up to the boss, but then shit talking everyone when
Yeah.
like their back is turned.
Yeah, such a
Be
creep.
like, oh my god,
Well,
Janet's
I like
the worst.
Varys because he communes with birds, and I am a bird, so I feel like we have a special
You're one of his
relationship.
little bears.
Yeah.
You're a big
No,
bird.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him. It's hard to say. He's hard
Yeah.
to read. Hard to read.
True.
But
I forgot though. Another one of my least favorite characters is probably like season 1 to season 2 Sansa because she was so annoying.
Yeah, she
but
was
she's
the worst.
matured. She's gotten a lot better. And it's like, do you think they try to make her look more and more like Catelyn? Like I feel like she does, but I don't know if it's like they're doing that on purpose, like through makeup and design, or if it's just that she's like getting older.
So in the books, they describe some of the children as looking like they have the Tully, auburn hair and stuff like that, and she was one of them. And then some have like the Stark look, and Arya and Jon were always described as having the Stark look. Jon, obviously, because his mom was Stark, Lyanna Stark.
Lack of hair.
Yeah, like Ned, golden hair. Oh, it's like, first of all, that's not even how genetics works.
But the seed is strong.
Yeah, he's like.
Eddard Stark.
And like I just love when he's like looking, he's like reading it out loud. He's like, Robert Baratheon, brown of hair, and his other like black. Oh, and it's like, I don't think you needed to spell that out for us. Like, we're not that dumb. We all got it.
It should have cut to like the Pikachu meme, and we're like, oh,
Pika.
Oh, Pika. Yeah, that part was just kind of like, okay, give us a little credit here. We're not dumb.
Another thing that there were 2 parts. There's 2 more parts of the show that really annoyed me, the way they changed it.
From book to movie?
Yeah.
Book to show?
So, when Tyrion is on trial, I think it's either in season 3 or 4, I don't remember. So, he's on trial for Joffrey's murder. And his consort, like...
Oh, Shay.
The prostitute, Shay. She's testifying against him, and in the show they make it seem like she's really like struggling with it and she's really remorseful.
Yeah, I know. She's
but
just
in the book she's
person.
just like cold-hearted, and she's just like.
So she basically was just always like.
It's clear that she's like, I was always just your whore. Like I never.
Like, I have no loyalty to you.
But they made it seem like in the book like that they did have like a loving relationship. But then she like turns on him and she's just like.
I'm with your dad now.
No, she doesn't say she's with Tywin, but like she just says
she
like.
is with Tywin in the book.
Yeah.
Though.
But she just says
he does
she's just in the trial, and she's like, yeah, he thought that I would do this, and we're going to talk about this, and he's like such an idiot.
Yeah, she like makes fun of him.
That's what most prostitutes are like, probably.
Yeah, I know, but it was just
they don't really fall in love with you.
Well, because like, I mean,
then another thing that happens in relation to that, so then he finds her in his dad's bed, he kills, so when Jaime lets him go, he's like, Jaime still thinks that he killed Joffrey, but he's like, I owe you one. And Tyrion's like, what are you talking about? And then Jaime's like, it was all a lie. Basically saying to Tyrion that his first wife wasn't actually a whore.
Right. And she did love him.
She did actually love him. And their marriage was real.
Because they don't do that in the show. That's only in the book.
And I'm like, why'd you do that? That was so good. Because that's why he goes back and kills his
really
father.
Evil.
He was just leaving, and he literally goes back to kill his father because his father did that to him.
Yeah, which gives him a lot more motivation to kill his father. Like in the book, or in the show, he's like, oh, he put me on trial and was okay with murdering me, so I killed him.
Yeah.
In the book, it's a way better motivation.
It's much more moving.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I actually had like a real beautiful wife, and you had her raped by all your guards, and then like made me believe she was like nothing.
Right.
Yeah, what a terrible person.
Yeah,
I would kill someone for that.
But it's pretty bad. And then he says, because then in the show, doesn't he say, where's Tysha? And then his dad's like, wherever whores go. Like, doesn't he say that in the show? And I'm like, why is he even saying that? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Maybe
he
they
says,
did
where's
say
my
that.
wife?
Oh.
I really don't remember.
Because I feel like they said it, and I was like...
I feel like I heard that before, and I don't know if it was you who told me, or if I saw it in the show.
He says it in the book for sure.
Yeah, I know he says it in the book. That's why I'm
remember.
like, does he say it in the show? Because then it's just, like, random. Like, everyone's probably like, why
that
did
would
he
be
say
too
that?
much.
Like, who's his wife?
That has nothing to do with anything.
They're like,
It's
Tysha, who's that person? Too many names in the show.
Yeah, it's really, so...
Like, it's kind of, can we just shout out our stepdad really quick? Because, like, he watches the show with my mom, like, do their, like, Sunday night HBO programming. And, like,
Hi,
he'll be like, to my mom, who's that? And she's like, that's Daenerys Targaryen. And he's like, wait, who's that? He's like, that's Cersei Lannister. I'm like, okay, these are the ones you should definitely know. Like, the show has been on for 7 years, and he's watched every episode. So, shout out to that. That's so cute. And he just must be so confused every time he watches. But he still watches it for quality time with his wife. So that's a good husband.
I used to do that with my wife as well. We would, because in the very first seasons, I was hugely into the show, and she had no idea what was going on. So I was so into the show, I would stop it for like an hour at a time to explain the histories of Westeros. I could like see her eyes rolling into the back of her head. Bella would be like, "No, stay with me."
You're like, "Wait, let me get my whiteboard," and you like sketch out a map and like all
really
the arrows.
got almost to that point.
There's like newspaper clippings.
Like, I think I have 2 questions. First of all, I think she would enjoy it because she likes
Oh, she likes it now, but
I mean, I think she would enjoy the books.
Back in those days, though, like when it was kind of a new thing, and I was super excited about it, it was hard to pull other people into it. Like when they had the Red Wedding, and like everyone freaked out about it, and you heard about it on like the Tonight Show and stuff like that. People were just like, "Oh, maybe the show's pretty good."
And did you know that they called Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding the Purple Wedding?
I did not.
I didn't. I mean, I just read that on like Wiki today because like his skin's all purple, and I'm like, okay,
can we give
really?
a shout out to Lady Olenna, who had like the best death scene of anyone in the whole show?
Yeah,
she drinks poison and then she's like, "Oh, I killed your son." Peace, bitches.
No, I just watched it today. She drinks the poison. She's like, "Is this going to hurt?" And he's like, "No, I made sure it'd be painless, Jamie." And she's like, "Good. I didn't want to die like your son, clawing at my throat and blood-red eyes as I foamed at the mouth with purple skin." And he's like, "Huh?" And she's like, "Tell Cersei, I want her to know." And then he's just like looking at her, and I'm like, "Ooh, that was pretty messed up."
Lady of Shade.
Yeah. And Jamie's like, dumb dog. He's like, "Arr? You killed my son?"
Oh, yeah. I know. Well, that also is like one of those things. Like that's something they have to do on these shows because they're like a lot of people who aren't smart watching them. And they're like, let's spell it out for you guys.
Yeah.
We hinted at it a lot, but in case you didn't see.
Yeah. I talked about
lack of hair.
I was like, "Marjorie, you'll never have to suffer that thanks to me." And I fiddled with your necklace 100 times. But in case you still didn't get it, I also murdered him. Like, okay.
Joffrey. Golden head.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait, are they gonna say gold of hair? And then they're like, golden hair. And I'm like, okay.
Ooh.
And no one's red haired. I'm like,
they should have just had like the piano sound to go with like dun dun dun.
Well, when it comes to that, like the theme song to Game of Thrones, it's like
iconic.
Dun, 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 dun. And it always makes me think of that like Trans-Siberian Orchestra Christmas song.
Yeah.
So it's like dun, 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 dun. Merry Christmas, and that's all I can ever think of. So I have no idea what the rest of the song goes like because I just hear that Christmas song in my head.
yeah, every time you sing it.
Every single time.
Get to that point. Just listen when you see the show on Sunday.
I gotta listen.
That's all I'm gonna hear.
Who watches
now.
credits? Who watches opening credits?
Wait, I had another question.
I like seeing the little CGI castles, but that's just me. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Well, because someone once was like to me, "Did you know the opening credits is a map?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's been 5 seasons."
You mean the video of the map?
I'm like, "Yeah, it has like names written on places. Obviously, that's a map. Like, I don't know what else it would be." It was really weird.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
So my other question is, and this is like a poll for our listeners as well as you guys, do you think watching TV together is like spending quality time with a loved one?
Spending quality time near a loved one.
I mean, we both have loved ones.
Sorry, Jess.
Sometimes Callie comes in your room and snuggles you.
Significant other. You can have loved ones you're not married to.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of loved ones, okay, Jenny?
You can snuggle us next
loved by
time.
many.
You're so loud.
I think me and my wife would definitely say yes. I think that is what we would consider quality time together. The hard part, though, is just us both agreeing on what we want to watch.
True.
Yeah,
because,
like how much Dr. Pimple Popper can you
oh
watch?
my god. Like, and she'll want to watch it like right as we're like sitting down to dinner too, and I'm like, no, this doesn't work. Like I can't watch something coming out of someone's forehead and eat a dumpling at the same time.
Oh yeah, that'd be a
No,
tough
they make
one.
cupcakes that are like pimples you can pop.
Oh, it's so gross. We like fondant, which is gross anyway. I'm like, yeah. So like popping pimples is pretty satisfying, but I don't really feel the need to watch like 3 gallons of material come out of your orifice. Like that's too much for me.
Oh.
Just that's something you do in the privacy of your own home. You just pop your pimples, maybe like pop out an ingrown hair from your husband.
Yeah, hide your shame.
That's it. You just that's a private matter. Personally, I feel, but now I don't know. Quality time watching TV. I would say like quality. It can be quality if you're like snuggling a little. You get to have the shared experience of something to talk about later.
And if you watch a news show, I think. But when people are just like watching reruns, I'm like, is that really
no?
quality?
When you're just like watching random
people
shows,
are into it. To me, it's like you're just forcing someone to sit next to you. But if it's a show that you watch together, like Renee and I decided to watch The Haunting of Hill House, it was called.
Oh, great show.
Yeah.
So we decided to watch that together.
Except we didn't watch the last episode together.
What? Oh, I thought you were going to say you didn't watch the last
Did
episode.
you even watch the last one?
I did 4 months later.
Yeah, because we didn't watch all of them, and then we just watched the last few on our own.
It's
Yeah.
just,
And
it's,
I felt like it was kind of anticlimactic, honestly. I feel like the
I
second
thought-
or third to last was scarier than
the
the
best
last
show was the
episode.
one that, we're talking about a whole different show now, but like the one in the funeral home where it was like that one shot kind of show.
Oh, yeah.
That show was amazing, but it's a whole
That's
different
creepy.
show.
It's an anthology, though, so it's going to be a different haunting the next
Which
season.
I like.
Kind of
That's
like
good.
American
American Horror Story.
Horror
Yeah.
Story, yeah.
Lots of shows these days
True
are adopting
Detective
the
and other ones.
anthology model, which is nice.
But yeah, I think I think it's great when you and like your whoever can like get excited about a show together to be all inclusive here.
Yeah, so like
Well, we're
Tim,
sisters and lovers.
Yeah.
oh God, please.
She has
Tim,
standards.
They're like, we knew it.
Tim had not watched Game of Thrones. He was always like, "Oh, too much hype. It's not good. I don't like it." And then he finally
No,
watched
he
it.
was
And he
like, come forward, bitch.
yeah. So he finally watched it and he liked it. So I was like,
Oh,
okay,
shocking.
so here you go. Like, yeah, when everyone in the world likes something, it's usually pretty good. But there's still some that he's not quite.
Also,
on the
I just
bandwagon with.
finished season 1, and season 1 is, amazing. I think there were some later that were, okay.
But remember when we watched the very first episode, we watched the previews for Game of Thrones and we're like, these look cool. And then we watched the first episode and we were like, it was probably 5 minutes before it ended and we were like, that was kind of boring. And then all of a sudden there was the creepy White Walker stuff and we're like, oh, it's good again. And then we're like, we like it now.
And I'm back.
Because I was like, I don't know, it was okay. And then we're like, what? It was so good at the end and we were like, now we gotta watch. So it was pretty good. They got you in time.
Gotcha. Okay, do you want to play the game?
Yes, so
What
I
is
have a
this
little
Oh, wait,
game.
before you do it, I wanted to tell a story about fondant, because you mentioned it. So, I went to Hibachi.
You mean gross sugar Play-Doh?
I went to Hibachi a few weeks ago, and it was me and a date. And
Ooh.
and the rest of the people at the table, the other 8 people, were a birthday party. So it was twins, brother and sister.
Ooh.
And
Hot.
and they each had 2 friends, and it was 2 moms.
Oh, wait.
No, or sisters. I don't know.
Okay.
2 adult ladies.
I can't keep
Okay.
track.
So they brought their own birthday cakes, and they had 2, and they were really cool, decorations with with fondant stuff, the way that when you
Usually,
get those
'cause-
fancy cakes are.
Gross.
So one was red velvet, and one was strawberry and creams. So the lady was cutting it for them.
One strawberry, lots of creams.
Berries and cream,
berries,
cream,
cream.
just cremas. Anyway, the girl was cutting it, and then she basically did the strawberry one, but then the mom was like, I want everyone to get a piece of each cake. So then she starts cutting the red velvet one, but then she basically is like, what is this? And she just takes all the fondant off the cake, and she just keeps peeling it off and throwing it out. And then it's just
I think it was like a wrapper.
Like a baby bell cheese.
Me and the lady are looking at each other like, what's she doing? And she throws all of it out, so it's basically just the red velvet. There was a middle layer of icing, but no icing on top of the cake. Because it was
because
under
all
the
stuck to the
fondant, and it stuck to the fondant. And I'm like, that's so awkward.
That's really funny.
Yeah, like a baby bell cheese.
All I can think now is I want a cake that's a Baby Bell cheese. Peel the fondant off.
That's funny.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And they didn't say anything like, oh no,
No,
we keep
I
that
think they
part.
were just whatever.
And they're probably
I mean,
that stuff's gross
the kids
anyway.
had already also did they really need 2 big pieces of cake? They weren't gonna take the cake home. They were have some. They're handing out to everybody. So
I don't eat fondant anyway, so I probably would have done the same thing.
I think the marshmallow fondant isn't that bad. I guess, but I don't know.
Ugh.
I don't really like it.
It's
Okay.
like sugar crystals.
All right,
Is
so how
it
do we
right,
play
our
this game?
answers?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Okay,
have 20
so-
minutes of silence on our podcast while we write our
That's what I was
answers.
like,
I like how you say our podcast.
I'm
You're just
sorry.
a guest here.
I am insinuating myself.
All right, so the way this game works is pretty
Needing
easy.
another Oreo.
More food noises.
Sorry, this one is a dire wolf. Okay, continue.
All right, so there are a couple of little poems I wrote about various characters, and you just have to try
I
and
love
guess
this.
who it's about.
Okay.
So you have to wait till I'm finished reading, and then you have to buzz in by saying beep beep.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Guys are-
No, I almost was gonna do that, but I said no.
Oh,
All right, so you have to wait till I'm totally done reading it. When I'm done, I'll look up from the paper, and then you can beep beep.
Okay.
Okay, and you're gonna call our name before we answer.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is She's proud to be a mother, a sister, and a lover. She knows how to play the game. Confessed her sins and cut her hair. A parade in the square. Ring the bell. Shame, shame, shame. Beep, beep. Jess?
Cersei.
Cersei Lannister. One for Jess. Some are easy, some are harder.
I can't beep in fast
Thank
enough.
you. Okay, the second one is...
You also looked up before you were done reading.
I know,
that
it's
time,
hard.
So I almost beeped too early.
Because I like to be an engaging reader.
Yeah.
I just like feel
I
awkward
was
just
like,
staring at my paper.
You're like, shame, shame, shame. I'm like, oh.
And I'm like, shame,
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 shame. Like that news thing. Okay, anyway. Here's the second one. A leader from beyond the wall. He was there when Mance did fall. What's wilder than his flaming hair? He claims to have bedded a she-bear.
Beep beep.
I can't remember his name.
Oh,
I know who it is.
Oh God.
Beep, beep. No, give him a second. He gets 5.
Tormund Giantsbane.
Damn.
That's it.
Yes!
I figured
JD
it out
got
while you
one.
were
I was
thinking.
like Thorin Giantsbane. No, that's.
All right. Number 3. This one's a little long. His son Mathos died at the Battle of Blackwater.
We both.
His wife does exist. It seems like he forgot her. He watched a ghostly baby's birth and saw a king brought back from dead. He has a special hatred for the woman dressed in red. Ooh, JD.
Davos Seaward.
Sir Davos. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
The
read that
Onion
part
Knight.
today. He has a wife, and like, what happened to her?
Yeah, I was reading a meme. I was
Yeah.
like reading an article that's like, why did Sir Davos Seaworth forget about his wife? And then it showed a map. It's like, here's all the places he's trekked. And it's like, he went past his house like 50 times. And they were like, why didn't he just stop in and say hi? Like, he's gone all
In the books,
over.
though, well, you'll get to it eventually. But
But like,
don't-
he could just hop on a
don't they
dragon and
kinda
be
talk
there.
about why he's estranged from her?
Well, a bunch of
I
his
don't
sons
know.
die both in the show and the book, but like I literally just heard this part today where like she's just like sitting in a keep somewhere in Westeros.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Okay.
Who knows?
The next one is, the Queen of Thorns with the sharp barbed tongue. While killing children is not condoned, she couldn't have chosen a more deserving one.
Beep, beep.
JD?
Olenna Tyrell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't beep fast enough. Okay, I keep not looking at you.
I know,
So
you keep
I
looking
I
at
didn't
the
think I was gonna
computer.
get her first name right.
All right, this one is a double. There's 2 characters
Okay.
in this. So you have to get
say
both.
Okay.
Yeah. She saves him, then he saves her, and after all, a coin she gains. Valar Morghulis, she tells a man, and at the house of black and white she trains.
Beep.
Yes?
So it's, oh my god, I can't remember. Arya and
Beep.
what is that guy's
He's
name?
got a really weird
Jakar
name.
something.
Pretty close. Close enough.
Jack and Haga.
Yeah. But technically he's no one, so you could have just said
Oh,
that. Because he's a faceless man.
There was a steal.
Okay, here's the next one. A boy, a tree, who knows, who cares?
Beep, beep. That
JD.
one.
Bran, yeah, I'm not a fan of Bran's storyline. It's weird, and I don't, not to be mean, but his like, the actor who plays him just looks really creepy these days.
He got real
He got, like,
teenage awkward.
So yeah, like I'm like, ooh.
I'm
and
glad
then,
they cut his hair.
then
But
he had that like simple Jack haircut.
Yeah.
For a long time. I'm just like,
He
this
really
is not a good look. Like you. Well, that's just because it's from that movie, Tropic Thunder. That's why it's called that.
Oh man.
All right, next up.
Finn had one of those too. Okay.
That's true. All right, number 7. What is dead may never die, and so it is that he survives. Ask him his name, and he may speak, but only to utter one word. Reek. Yes.
Theon Greyjoy.
You got it.
That was really good actually.
Although now he's not really Reek anymore. He reeks
Back to
less.
Theon.
He
Yeah.
went back to
He's getting back to who
he's
he
penisless
has.
Theon now.
Okay.
Yeah, he has balls still though, right? It's hard to tell.
Balls and no penis?
That's a good question.
That seems worse.
Yeah.
How does he pee?
Yeah, the hole.
Straightforward.
Seems like it would get infected really easily.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
true.
Okay. Number 8. He made it out of Danny's friend zone, but you might have never known. Switching actors mid-show? What gives? You could have at least had him wear the wig. Yes.
I'm gonna say it wrong. Dario Naharis. How are we saying that?
Naharis, I
Naharis,
think is
okay.
it. Okay.
Dario Narlis.
And then the last one. So far, the score is tied 4-4.
Oof. Okay.
A handmaid to the queen, she has mastered many tongues, but she's fallen for a eunuch, which seems less than fun. Jess?
Oh.
I know. It's like MESSIDA or something. It's Masade or Masande. I don't know.
Close
Oh,
enough.
she got
What is it?
It's
Miss Sunday.
Masandi.
Or
Yeah.
Masandi.
All right, so those were the poems I
So
read.
I
So
win.
Jess won 5-4. Very close, though. It might have just been that her beeps got to me faster because she's sitting closer.
Yeah.
It's
So
the Doppler
Doppler.
effect.
Yeah, we'll probably hear it on there, and everyone will be like, JD had that.
Yeah.
So, like, please, it was just for fun. There's no prizes.
Yeah.
But
What?
the prize is for all the listeners who got to hear those sweet poems that I wrote today. You're welcome.
Which you should definitely post
Post.
on our website.
Oh, you're gonna make me type them up? Okay. More
If you guys
work.
were wondering like why we're not very active on social media, it's because our social media manager has been really lazy and she's about to get fired.
Yes, if you would like to apply as an intern for this podcast to be our social media manager, we will pay you nothing.
It does not pay well, but
But it's
there
fun.
there
We're
might be
pretty good.
Oreos.
Sometimes there's Oreos and dogs.
And poems.
And poems.
We're hopeful for an Oreo sponsorship right now, so.
Yeah. Game of Thrones Oreos. All right, now to wrap up, should we come up with our final predictions for the show?
Sure, but we have a few.
What?
Well, did you want to talk about the movies? I know.
Movies.
Oh, for our popping up the movies?
I was
you gonna
I
talk
was
about
not
it or
told
no?
about this.
Yeah, we could talk about it.
Are we gonna talk
have
about
to.
us? Because I did go see that one.
We already talked about that. If you had listened to our episode, then you would have known that.
I
Wow, JD.
totally did.
Pretty
Wow.
awkward.
Oh wait,
Awkward.
what podcast do you like better, Dear Feet or the Beefy Boys?
Oh boy.
That's our number one question from
Yeah.
all guests.
Forgot to ask.
They're
you.
so similar.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. I guess in terms of hours listened, Beefy Boys, but in terms of quality content, I think I relate more towards Dear Feet.
Okay.
Yeah, Beefy Boys
I mean, it's just
curse a lot.
I'm not gonna shit talk the Beefy Boys.
No, I
They
mean,
just sometimes sometimes I listen to their episodes and I'm like, oh, I'm into this. Like I love that game, and then other times I'm
Not as into
yeah.
I'm not feeling it.
I think it's just like I can't really relate because they're all men and like they're also
Yeah.
really young, some of them, which sounds so weird coming from me because I don't feel old. But the one guy's like 22 or something, and I'm like, you know nothing of the world. Like, he's so
You know
young.
nothing, Beefy Boys.
Oh,
No,
man.
I was thinking about the other day because I think someone said like something about dating younger people or whatever. And I was like, yeah, when I was like 23, I would date guys in like their 30s or whatever. And they'd be like, you're so young. And I'm like, shut up, I'm an adult. I've
Yeah,
seen
but
things.
like we haven't been through the same life experiences, and you're like, what does that even mean? And now, like, if I even thought of dating a 23-year-old, I'd be like, oh my god.
I've dated some, and I'm like, you're so young. And then they're like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, I used to think that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's not
You're
even
like,
that
one
they
day
don't,
you'll
it's not even that
see.
they can't be mature. It's more like, you have energy.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're going to be so old one day, and you're going to be like, ooh, 10:30.
Yeah, like you don't hear creaks and cracks every time you move your body, which is like
You
something
don't
I've
wake up and
developed in the
everything
last
hurts.
year. Yeah, like literally every time I turn, my back is like, and I'm like, what is this? Why am I falling apart? I didn't know like the.
It's like, why is your back quacking?
Okay, it's not quacking, it's cracking. Okay.
So, Renee,
Are you the black swan?
do the chicken noise that you do.
Okay, this is the chicken sound I make.
So she taught that to our preschoolers, and then they ran around screaming "big cock."
Well, I said buck, not big cock. It's buck, 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 buck.
I was like, just say "buck buck" or "baka baka." Okay.
Baka baka. That's what
how-
we say now.
That's how
It's really
Fozzie the
funny.
bear does it.
Yeah, baka baka. You got the dog excited. She's
So
like,
speaking of Muppets,
Okay.
um,
What?
I wanted to talk about a parody that they did on Sesame Street, which I don't know. Are those characters made by Jim Henson?
Those are not Muppets.
I know
They're not Muppets, but they are Jim
I
Henson
think they're Jim
puppets.
Henson puppets.
Maybe
They are.
originally.
But
I really
anyway.
don't know.
So on Sesame Street, they do a lot of parodies of like famous TV shows.
Yeah.
And they had one that was a Game of Thrones that was called Game of Chairs.
And they had one about Boardwalk Empire, which was really funny.
And Hunger Games.
And,
the
like-
Boardwalk Empire one was pretty funny.
It's really funny because you know in the
I'm just imagining Gonzo like stabbing someone
no
in the
in
back.
like in the you know how the opening credits for Boardwalk Empire he's like walking on the beach as
Oh,
he's in
yeah,
Atlantic
yeah.
City and like beer bottles are like washing up.
Yeah.
So in this one it was like
Saltines.
saltine crackers were like washing up and it was something about crackers. I don't remember. It was pretty funny though.
No, it was
Alright.
like
It was like
about the way
Bird
they
Squawk Empire or something, right? Wasn't it about birds?
Oh, like Polly
no, it was
Warner
Bird. It was
Cracker.
Bird Walk.
Birdwalk Empire. Okay.
Ah.
Yeah.
And then the Hunger Games was like the Hungry Games, and they were just like trying to decide what.
And it was
to
like
eat.
Cookie Monster or something.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're pretty funny. I don't think we have to talk about the other shows.
Oh. Well, we didn't watch a movie this week.
Yeah.
But
We're going to
watch
see,
a movie this week.
What are we seeing? Best of Enemies and Pet Sematary is out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't we seeing? I was invited
Yes.
to Pet Cemetery.
You were actually requested as bodyguard.
Yeah.
I feel like we should go Friday night.
I work on Friday nights.
Yeah, after work.
I might be working till 10 on Friday.
They have movies after that, Bird.
What? Hey, we're all old here and hurting.
Yeah. I didn't even know they had a 10 at night.
How am I supposed to use my senior discount?
Oh,
All right.
man. Can I just really quickly say, too, the job I work on the weekends is, hourly. And a lot of times people will post their shifts, and it's like they don't understand there's an AM and a PM. Because they'll post shifts with very ambiguous hours, and they're just like, it's like 8 to 10. And I'm like, AM or PM? And then they're like, oh, I'm at PM. And like sometimes people will just say, oh, I'll take that shift, and be like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be in the morning. And I'm like,
You're
why don't
working
you
14
ask?
hours now.
Like, what is wrong with you people? Yeah, it's not good.
Young people today.
Yeah, right? Well, it's because they don't have the analog clocks, so maybe
Where do
they
they
don't.
get the energy?
Analog clocks.
What?
Analog clocks are the ones that don't say AM or PM.
Well, no,
on
but I
them.
mean, so they don't realize that you have the same time 2 times.
Oh my
I don't know. It's
I want to
already
meet
10.
the person
it's
that
late
gets
for
that
me.
confused.
It's late for me.
I need an
10:09.
adult.
Do you know where your brain is?
Okay, so
Let's
anything
do our
else on the
final
agenda?
predictions.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay, Jess?
My prediction is show prediction. I don't know. I don't care about the show.
Ow.
I'm a book person, okay? I'm
All right, well, then no one wants to know, because, like, JD?
My prediction is that Dany and Jon will get married and they'll rule the Seven Kingdoms.
Okay.
I'm no fear that they're going to defeat the Ice King. Like, that whole thing is dumb.
You have no fear that they're going to do that?
That they won't do it. I know
Oh.
they're going to do it.
Okay. JD?
So, that's a hard question. So I know George R. R. Martin, the guy that wrote the book, he has said it's not going to be a happily ever after ending. So I know that it's not going to be like, oh, they just beat him and everyone goes on their merry. Obviously, Cersei's going to die.
Maybe that's what will happen is she won't die.
Well, that's the other thing is there's this whole question of like what deal did Tyrion make with Cersei in that meeting
Weird
they had.
meeting.
Anyway, so there's this big storyline in the book where there's this guy, the Lord of Light, R'hllor, who has a hero on Earth called Azor Ahai, and Azor Ahai makes this sword called Lightbringer, and he creates it by stabbing it through his wife's heart. So, like, I don't know if the show's going to go that far, but I think that's going to come back in the book. Like, at some point, somebody's going to, some big character is going to have to be sacrificed by another character, and that's how they're going to win.
I know what's going to happen now.
So, I just put the last
Now what?
jigsaw piece in there.
Jon Snow is going to do that to Daenerys.
See, that's what I was thinking, but maybe,
Because she's a little bit mad. She's a little bit like her dad.
She's a little bit crazy.
it's true, and she's got the fire.
Yeah.
You know?
See,
So,
I thought...
you think it's going to be like ice? Well, ice has been destroyed, but
ice, baby.
Longclaw, like he stabs it through her heart. Like, I don't know. I think somehow, like, a main character is going to die, is my prediction.
Let's not... They always die. Kind of hedging your bets there,
I'm playing it
JD.
safe, alright?
One person will die
Probably
in the
someone
show.
will die.
I don't think they're actually going to kill the Night King. I think they're just going to banish him back up north somehow.
I think
We'll
that
go
the
back to
Hound is going to be, like... Okay, I don't read the book, so I don't know all of what you're saying. But I think the Hound is going to be, like, the prophet of the Lord of Light.
Really?
Yeah, because I think, like, they've been building up with his whole fear of fire for so long. So maybe then, like, the fire is going to, like, be his savior type thing. And, like, he's already kind of with them now.
I would
like,
give that long odds. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like the Hound, like, why is he around so much if he's not going to be important?
He's gonna fight his brother.
Like, he's in so
That's
many
the big
episodes. But that's just, like, whatever. That's,
Now
like,
his
too
brother's like a
predictable.
zombie.
Yeah, it's like
It's true.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, he's evil, and now the other... Well, alright. You know there's going to be a Clegane Bowl, as they've said.
What's that weird guy called? The maester that was like banished from the Citadel.
Oh,
What's it?
Qyburn.
Not called the Citadel. What's it called?
Yeah, it's the Citadel.
Yeah, the Citadel's where-
Qyburn. He was
Maester
banished from
Qyburn.
the Citadel because he...
Wait, are you sure?
He made
Isn't
zombies.
that like a military academy in the United States?
No, the Citadel is where the masters all learn in Old Town.
It's pronounced maester.
Maesters. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
not the master.
Maesters.
The Citadel is also, yes, like a military
Sorry,
academy.
I killed
Yeah.
Mista,
Pretty
Mista
sure.
lady.
Yeah, he makes zombies, so they kicked him out.
Right. Also, I was going to say really quickly,
Wait, was it
we didn't even talk about like our saddest deaths,
Oh.
but I would just say like probably for me the saddest death was Tommen.
I thought you were gonna say Shag It Up.
No, Tommen, because I feel like he was just like a sweet boy, and I feel
I'm gonna be
bad.
honest, I wasn't sad at all when they killed Rickon. I was like, that guy sucks.
Like, because I don't know, just like Cersei's terrible, but she did love her kids, and it's sad that all of her kids died.
I think it's like,
And the way he did, I was just like very surprised when that happened. When he just
that's
like
true.
fell out the window. I was like, oh my god!
Fell? Didn't he kill himself?
Do you have
Well, yeah, but I mean, he didn't like run and jump. He just like
do you have,
fell out.
Yeah.
do you have pity for Cersei though?
Not really. She's
Yeah,
really
like
terrible.
she brought it all on
Got
herself.
what
I
she
think.
deserved.
I mean, like I feel
Yeah.
bad for anyone who loses their children,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Like when I rewatched it was like the third or fourth season where basically like she basically throws the Tyrells under the bus by saying like, oh, like Loras is gay and like his sister lied for him. She's got this like shit-eating grin on her face the whole time that they're like getting ready to arrest them and stuff. And I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, I can't
Lady
wait till
Olenna
they
talks
cut your
about
hair
that,
off.
too.
And, ugh.
she's like, "Do you remember how you smirked
Yeah,
when you took
Lady
my
Olenna.
children away or
Oh.
whatever?" She's like, "Because I do, and I'll never forget."
Yeah, you
She's
know
gonna
what?
die soon.
And that's my hence that's my answer. Saddest death, Lady Olenna.
Yeah, she
'Cause
was
she
sweet, but she was so
was-
old.
I know the old people you always
I
know
mean,
are
like,
gonna
what's
die.
Everyone's gonna die, JD.
Yeah,
what's
but-
well, not everybody. I mean, Jon Snow didn't die.
He died.
He
Well,
did
okay,
die.
Jon.
That was a bad
And I like
example.
how I was like, when he died, it broke his vows to the Night's Watch, and I'm like, okay, I don't think that's what they meant when they wrote those
He
vows.
did it for his life.
I don't-
Now he
I'm
has
like,
a
I don't
new
think they. I think that they
Reset.
meant
He's like, hot
forever.
loophole.
And he's like, never mind. I had sex.
And
I'm
then
not
yeah,
gonna
and then
do it
they go
again.
kill him because he had sex with the girl. It's like, sorry.
Wait, JD, so you read the books before you watched the show?
Yes, and so oh my god, reading if you had never seen the show before, you just start reading the books, you will never be so confused in your entire life because George R. R. Martin throws so many names at you and so many characters, and then like once you finish one book, he adds like 20 more characters in
Okay,
the
but
next
he
book.
has genealogy trees in the
Yeah, but
back.
also like the
Yeah, but
names of
are you
the
gonna
people.
write a research paper in order to like?
go-
The
and look
names
at
of
them
the people
and, like,
and the
who's
names
this
of the places, like it's confusing. Like you were
Yeah.
telling me how
It
like
is
in the
really
books,
hard.
Theon's sister's name's like Asha.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like one
And then
letter
the
off from
wildling
wildling lady.
slave girl's like Osha.
But now that I'm listening to them on like Audible, it's like amazing because like I have this like base of like knowing where everyone is, and like suddenly like I'm hearing this whole backstory of like the Redwine twins when they were in King's Landing and stuff like that. And it's cool. It's one of those books you can come back to and learn more.
Find something new.
you know,
Yeah.
every time.
But I
yeah.
wanted
But
to
then
ask
also
you,
like the names that always confuse me is even like Sir Davos, and I always want to say Bravos and Davos, and then
Yeah.
like Dario, and I'm like they're so similar.
There's
like
a lot of similar
you
names.
just
yes,
come
of
with
course.
something new.
Like he had 5
But it's
sons
because
in the
it's-
book.
'cause
Like
a
I
lot of
didn't
them
know
are,
until I like reread
new
it. I was like, because in the show he only has one that dies.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was reading something on the wiki, it said like that he mentions he has a lot of sons at some
Yeah, he
point,
has a
but
lot
then
of
he
them.
like doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if he
I
does
know
in
like
the
more
show.
than one
But I think
dies
they're
in
already
Blackwater,
dead, though.
but
Like,
Yeah, a lot of
some
them
are already
died.
dead.
yeah, I don't know if
A
they
lot of
all
them
died.
died.
I haven't gotten that far again.
But I wanted to ask you about the Red Wedding. Like, how did
Okay.
you react when you read it?
When I read it,
Let's stay for a red wedding.
it's sad because you really. I mean,
Stop stomping your feet.
sorry. I told them to tell me when I was doing something that was loud.
I was like, he'll probably stop.
I was just worried about my like heavy breathing. I was gonna be like, okay. Anyway, I love it. You love it and hate it because like George R. R. Martin does a great job of really getting you behind Rob's cause.
Yeah.
Like he's such a protagonist that you love him, but at the same time you also have to love that like he's not just gonna give you the cookie cutter Disney ending where like
And
the
also
good
you
guy
hate
wins
Catelyn,
and the bad
so-
guy loses. Yeah, like I love it. I love how she in the book she actually grabs his like mentally handicapped like son or something and she cuts his throat, which is kind of hilarious. I don't know why.
Like-
she's like, I'll kill him, and he's like, yeah,
So-
you're doing me a favor.
Yeah, a lot of times. He feels that way about most of his kids. He's
Yeah,
like,
he
I
hates
can't rid
his
of my
kids.
daughters. They're really ugly.
Yeah.
But he knows it's
Walder Frey.
He knows
Yeah.
it's like
And
a
he's
burden
like-
for people to
He's like, "Wow, girls
I
are
kinda
ugly." And I'm like, "You're hideous. Why'd you
I
have
kinda
so many?"
love Walder Frey reading about him again because
Oh,
he's
he's
just
like-
like he doesn't like mince any words, which
Yeah.
He don't give a hoot.
yeah.
But no, because I know a lot of people, they were like, I threw the book and I didn't read it for 5 years because I was so mad.
What?
And I just remember thinking, like, it's a book. Like,
No,
I've never...
see, I loved that
Like,
though.
to me, yeah, like, when something shocking like that happens, to me, I'm just like, so in awe of the writer.
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, that's amazing. Even, and you guys said what the sad death is? To me, none. I don't care. It's TV. Get over it.
Any writer that has the guts to do something that crazy and still do it really well, I applaud that anytime. Because, there's so many books out there that'll give you the same story over and over and over again.
And it's also just, like, I think especially this day and age, people can appreciate that more. Like, we don't always need a happy ending. Like, even on... Because, like, when we first watched Game of Thrones, we're like, oh, they'll never kill Ned. Like, he's not going to die. And then he died, so fast. And we're like, oh, okay, this is a show where they kill people. Like, main characters.
That surprised me in the book, too. Way more than the Red Wedding.
Yeah, and it keeps you more interested. Because even, like, in The Walking Dead, obviously, they've, like, killed some main characters. But there's, like, the core 6 who, like, seem like they'll never die. Like, the fact that, like... Well, obviously, Glenn died eventually. But, like... When he first was, like, trapped...
Still mad about that.
Remember when he was, like, first trapped in that dumpster? And he, like, didn't die then. And you're like, come on. He would have died. Like, but...
And what are the odds that Negan was like, you look like the survivor, and then, like, killed him?
Yeah. Right. Well, Negan's very perceptive. But yeah, so, like, even in that show, like, at first you're like, okay, well, they do kill some main characters. And, like, it keeps you more interested because you're not just like, oh, they'll always survive. Yeah. And also, like... Not as many crazy things happen to them. Obviously, both those shows are fantasy, but, like, I still watch Grey's Anatomy, which, it's been out for a long time, and it's pretty much a soap opera.
Still out?
It's really
yes.
Jesus. The last thing I heard, like, she drowned in a river or something.
Oh my god, that was, like, 8 seasons ago. So
that was, like, a lifetime ago.
It's like a Puget Sound. Anyway, but yeah, so, like, in that show, it's like, nobody really dies, and then you're like, wow, you have been through...
consequences.
2 plane crashes, a car crash, your husband died, there was a shooting at your hospital, your sister died, and then you're just like, okay, like, nope, you would probably kill yourself. Like, all of the tragedies that seem to follow these people around. Or just have, like, a
mental breakdown.
Yeah, like, there's no way you could be, like, a successful doctor after having been through all of that.
Again,
so it's a little ridiculous.
It's kind of like you were saying before, how, like, they're, like, spoon-feeding you, like, the plot or something like that. Like, I think a bad writer is someone who, like, doesn't have the guts to, like, off one of his main characters because, like, or bring them back when they shouldn't because, then there's no consequences and you feel no, like, investment in, like, their lives or what they're doing.
But it did like when they brought Buffy back from the dead.
Yeah, me too.
I wasn't ready for that to be over.
I was like, new network? Okay, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, UPN? Wait, was that what it was on?
We found this special urn that raises people from the dead. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. We
forgot
to
dig her out.
Musical
episode.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And we got Spike's weird descent into madness. But that's for another time. Another time.
Buffy will be another day.
The Buffy buffs. We can make our own podcast.
Oh my gosh.
I would have to. I've been rewatching Angel, and that's like already a lot.
That is.
And it's so old.
I don't think I could ever rewatch Angel. I can rewatch Buffy.
It's so old, and like.
They use a lot of
words that you're like, oh my god, you would never say that today.
That was another.
It's really not PC at all.
That was another one where the first season they had the one guy who was like Irish or something, and then he like
Doyle, and then he
died. That guy died, didn't he, from like a drug overdose?
He died in the show, but then yes, he did die in real life.
Drug overdose, yeah, and then they replaced him with who knows.
Wesley.
Oh, the green dude, wasn't he?
Later, Wesley right now.
Yeah, Wesley comes back.
Oh,
yeah. And then Lorne, that's the green guy.
Sweet Wesley.
No, not Wesley. Wesley.
Wesley Wyndham Price.
So, I don't know if you ever did start reading them, but I think you should read The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, because I think you would appreciate it.
You gave me that.
I know.
Yeah, I think it's still sitting around my house somewhere.
Your house? You guys live together. You mean our house?
Our house. It's in somewhere in our house.
Anyway, I think you should read them.
Oh my gosh, seriously.
That's the Interview with a Vampire and Lestat and all those.
Yeah.
It's funny because I really love those movies. They're so. If you ever want to see just like a really great corny piece of the early 2000s, watch that movie that Aaliyah was in. What was it?
Queen of the Damned.
Queen of the Damned. I watched that the other day and I loved every minute of it. From the minute she's walking through the fakest looking fire in the world, I was like, man, I loved this movie.
It wasn't too true to the book. Queen of the Damned is actually Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned combined. It's both books combined.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just think you'd like them because I think it's similar in the sense that these writers are making these books and they're not
afraid to do big
I don't know.
things.
They're vampires, so they don't really die, I guess.
Yeah.
Lestat never dies.
Don't they kill Kirsten Dunst?
Okay, they can die, except Lestat is a very, very
tiny
strong
Kirsten Dunst
vampire
dies.
because he was made by an ancient vampire, and in the rules of vampires, they're not supposed to make fledglings because they're too strong.
Oh, I should read those.
Drank the blood of the character who's played by Aaliyah, who's the queen, who's the original vampire. So he's super, super strong.
Oh, so
at one point, And then one of the old ancients, who was like one of the like third vampires made, she's like, when I start looking too pale, I just go into the sun and burn myself, and then I get a tan, basically. So he like flies into the sun at one part, but then he ends up still surviving. So he's basically like not able to be killed.
Pretty much invincible.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
They're pretty good. There's
So
a lot
should
of
we
interesting backstories.
wrap it up?
Yeah. All right. Anything else
Wrap it
you
up.
want to say? No?
Do you do final thoughts here? Final thoughts. It's a great show.
Wait, Deer Feet or Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. Deer Feet's fine.
Get out!
Happy to talk about it anytime. Thank you for having me here.
Jamie, put away your sad worm.
Oh, God.
I call him Grey Worm.
Oh, God. Too many memories.
I'm going to have one more Game of Thrones Oreo.
All right.
All right. Final thoughts from me.
It's the Night King.
I agree with JD, but I disagree about this being fine. It's a very good podcast. Continue listening.
More like, fine. Okay. I don't know.
Please, we'll just end on that note.
It's not.
All right, so check us out. Our website is deerfootsisters.com, facebook.com/deerfeetpodcast.
Mary JD's chewing in the
Renee wanted to get the Oreos. Renee was like, let's get these Game of Thrones Oreos. And I was like, that's a good idea. But I was like, but don't eat them during the podcast because then people will be like, we heard your chewing noises.
Yeah, what's that disease when people like hate chewing sounds?
That's
I don't know.
Or not a disease. It's like a disorder. It's like, yeah, when you get like so...
agoraphobia, but for chewing?
No, I'm sick!
Stop eating! No, it's like, yeah, when you get like really annoyed by him.
It's in my brain.
You guys are so mean to me. I'm going to bed.
Fine. Anyway, Instagram and Twitter, Deerfoot Sisters, and you can email us too if you want to.
And Facebook. Did you give that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're the Deerfoot Sisters, and we're friends.
Tappity, tappity, tappity.